What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Just Meeple and Me. And I'm going to be doing another unboxing game of this epic strategy game here in front of me, The Colonists. This is another game that is a couple years old, not my normal Kickstarter release game. It's a game I picked up when I got Nations when it was on sale on Amazon. And this is a game that I think is definitely built for solo players who like to torture themselves. This game is a long game. The name does not lie. It is the epic strategy game. You know, when you go online, you hear people talking about 4, 5, 9, 10, 12-hour games to complete this game, guys, to go through all 4 ages. Now, you go and play 1 age at a time, and that will still probably take you 60 plus minutes, even in solo mode. This is a challenging game, but it is a fun game. It is an economics simulator, very well done. It's an economic puzzle game. There is a lot of thought you have to do to plan your movements to trigger certain actions. And the trick with this game is, if you haven't seen a run through, you know, there's like you build randomly like a center tile. I don't even know what they call it, but you're drafting different tiles and laying them out in certain orders, and you move your characters around, and you get 3 movements per turn, but then you must execute every action that you land on, and you can only move 1 space at a time. So therefore, if you need to move to a certain part of the board to execute like a lumber action or something, you're going to have to plan the route carefully, because you're going to execute other actions on your go, and sometimes those might not be helpful to you. You might not want to take on additional storage, because kind of like through the ages, there's a storage management aspect to this game where you're constantly going to have to build up more storage to manage your goods. But unlike in Through the Ages, I don't find this version annoying. I think it's very well built into this game, but there is just so much content in this game, and this is a game that you can set up, play for an hour or two, leave it for a week, come back, play for another hour, and really just play a game that stretches weeks on end if you want to, taking yourself from era 1 to era 4. If you have kids around like I do, obviously don't mind, I want to leave these small pieces laying around. It has a save feature, so you can repack it all up and then save the game and unbox it and just restart. So that's also a nice addition to this game, especially since it does take so long to complete. So we're just going to be doing unboxing today of The Colonists. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get this box open. For The Colonists, the epic strategy game. Alright, right on top here, we have a couple decks of cards. Some score markers of some sort. These produce, looks like some sort of clothing item. There are a lot of different economy goods in this game that you have to manage, trade in to craft other things, and mechanics like that in this game. We have a bag of meeples. Different colors for the different players. Standard looking worker meeple. You use these meeples in your colony that you're building to, you know, produce certain actions. You can send them to the farm, send them to this or that, send them to storage. But then you also have these guys, these non-meeple looking items. And these are your player markers where you're moving around this tile grid that you're building with, and that's how you move around to execute your different actions. Rado has a great playthrough. I know probably my description's confusing, but if you watch this video, this game is, play-wise, it's not as overwhelming as maybe I'm making it seem. It's definitely complex, but it's not hard to set up and get going, but it does take a lot of thought. We have a bag of bags. This is to store all the things that we're going to be punching. This is a heavy box, guys. I mean, definitely has some weight to it. Definitely dense. As soon as I get through these next couple items, you're going to see why. So these are the embassies. So these games you can randomly have 1 to 3 of these. And these change the play style because you can choose to go to the colonies or to the embassies. We'll take you through these different colonies, and then you can execute and level up to have different bonuses. And since you only use, you know, 1 to 3 per game, a lot of different variety with what colonies come out on how you actually play the game, how you manage your economy and your colony, and things like that. We have our rulebook, our appendix, And another overview. This one creates an introductory game. But we have our rulebook for the Colonists. So here we go. Colonists. The epic strategy game. The Emperor entrusted you with the task to establish a glorious and prosperous community. To show the Emperor that his trust in you is not in vain, you send out your trusted steward into the countryside, instructing him to build residents to attract new colonists into your community. Recruiting colonists is not enough. You will have to create jobs for them as well. Therefore, you should also build buildings where the colonists of your community can work. This will require a lot of resources. So let your steward or your colonists collect them. With time, duties will become more complex, which is why you should educate your colonists so they are ready for the task at hand. Farmers will turn into citizens, which in turn can become successful merchants. Establish relations with distant colonies by building embassies in your community, and your community will be thriving in no time. The game objectives is to send your stewards out to collect goods needed for buildings and valuable improvements. These create jobs for the colonists of your community. The more buildings you build and the more colonists you employ, the more valuable your community will be. In the end, the player whose community is worth the most dollars wins. So there you go. This is a game where solo mode, you're just trying to beat your high score. You're trying to get through all the ages, era 1, era 2, era 3, era 4, and see what your high score is. There are some fan variants or some that have been released on Kickstarter, or not, no. There's been some fan variants that you can find on Board Game Geek. There we go. And they kind of create different conditions to make the game a little bit more challenging. There's a couple really cool ones on there that add just a little bit more variety to this game. I really hope, they do have an expansion of this game, even if it is a few years old, because I think it could really benefit from a few more buildings, a few more embassies, creating a little bit more of a solo mode and player interaction. So here are the components. Quite a bit. 202 buildings, and we have to punch each and every one of those out individually. I do think they're double-sided, so that may help. But quite a bit here. Okay, so there's that. This is the appendix that gives a little bit more information. Tips for new players. And then we have kind of an overview of the game and the setup. We have the introductory game. So I think this makes it, trying to control the difficulty, eases you in. This is a turn overview of a simulation game between Alice and Bob. So very well done graphics. You can see there's winter rounds and summer rounds. And I think those rounds will mean different things on how things produce and things like that. Just one more thing to keep track of. So this is what I'm talking about on that tile building thing, guys. So this is, everybody has access to this. You separately have access to your player board where you build your colony, but everybody's steward moves around this, and you draw a tile at the beginning of your turn and you choose where to put it. But then if you want to go here, you have to move 1 and execute this action, which is +2 lumber. 2, the market, and you have to execute one of the 3 market choices, and that can change every game. And then you get here. If, let's say, he was here, this blue one, and I want to move here, I could move here, but I have to pay him a tax. So there is some blocking mechanisms, but in solo mode, we really don't have to deal with that too much. There might be an AI that moves through, but or some players in the solo fan-made variants on Board Game Geek have added that. But you can choose where to put these buildings, and then that's why it's economic puzzler to how you move your actions, what order you do to get to certain places. You should always be thinking 2-3 turns ahead based on the board layout of where you want to go. But if you don't have anywhere to store lumber, you get penalties for that, things like that. So things to keep track of, and then you can build this up as well. So that goes through multiple rounds and phases. You can see, this board is now getting bigger and bigger as they have laid more tiles down. You have access to more buildings, more goods, more services, and that just creates it challenging. And then they have a medium difficulty and a hard difficulty. But we should just start with the easy introduction one. Okay. Alright, so that's all the fluff stuff, because the rest of this box is stuff to punch. Look at this. This is just board after board after board of things that we have to punch. The Facebook groups, you guys have taken about 90 minutes to punch everything and sort it. But we have our resource tokens, markers, other resource tokens here. This next one has all these buildings I was talking about. These are all some of the tiles. We have like the developer tile, the riverbank groove, and each of these, as I said, has different things. Now, some of these tiles are also by era. So some in the first era, you only play with certain tiles. In era 2, you add more tiles. In era 3, you add advanced tiles and things like that. And you can see they're marked here. So this is an error. I hate Roman numerals, but I think that's 4, because I know there's not a 5 or a 6 error. But so they're clearly marked, so you won't have access to these tiles if you're just playing an error 1 game. Or when you first start an error 1 game, you won't have access to these till you've successfully made it through all the seasons of years before you move on. So I think there's 2 seasons per year, 5 years per round, and then at X many rounds per era or something like that. These are the buildings you can build: tailor shops, hunting lodges, flats. You know, this one produces, looks like some sort of money, which is how you win the game. It's having goods to trade, sell. And then one more thing of things to punch. These are your storehouses. So again, you store your goods on here. So that is the Colonists. Oh, and let me just show you the player board, because that's right in the back here. So this is your individual player board. You build your storehouses here. Let me flip it right side up. So you build your storehouses here. You can build your farms, your houses, other buildings here. You move your Meeples workers to there, etc., etc. So you can have a 4x5 grid of buildings. You never build there. So you can have a lot in this game. This is a very complex game. Like I said, it is a heavy Euro game. This is the first true heavy Euro game that I own that can be played solo, that I'm excited about. I will get busy punching, getting this organized, but that is the Colonists, the epic strategy game. Encourage you guys to check out other run-throughs and gameplay videos online, but this is a game that I feel like should be in everyone's collection if you like heavy Euro economic simulator type games. Until next time, guys, it will just be Meeple and me.